It just started. Mars has entered Aries, and this is not a quiet shift. This is ignition. This is the moment a dormant flame becomes uncontrollable fire. Right now, at this exact point in time, you are standing at the edge of something that refuses to wait for you to feel ready. You may not fully understand it yet, but something inside your life has already begun to move faster, louder, and more directly than before. This is not subtle. This is not gentle. This is a cosmic push through a doorway that has been closed for far too long. And you need to understand what this means, because the next 6 weeks will not ask for permission. They will demand action. Mars in Aries is raw, primal energy. It is the first spark of movement after stagnation. It is the universe saying, enough waiting, enough hesitation, enough quiet suffering behind closed doors. This transit carries ancient force, the kind that does not negotiate with your fears. It activates instinct. It strips away overthinking. It forces truth into motion. And whether you feel ready or not, it will push you through a threshold that has been building pressure for months. Before this moment, you may have felt stuck in a strange in-between, like something was coming, but never arriving. You may have been dealing with silence where you expected clarity, delays where you expected progress, and emotional heaviness that didn't seem to have a clear source. Maybe you were waiting for someone to choose you, or for life to give you a sign, or for your own confidence to finally catch up with your desires. There may have been nights where your thoughts refused to quiet down, where your chest felt heavy with questions that had no answers. You were being prepared, even if it felt like nothing was happening. That waiting phase was not punishment. Was pressure building behind a door that was meant to break open all at once? And now, with Mars stepping into Aries, that door is no longer holding. The energy has shifted from passive to aggressive, from internal to external, from thinking to doing. This is where everything changes. This is where you stop rehearsing your life in your mind and start confronting it in reality. But this is also where the warning begins. Because fire, when not directed, does not create, it destroys. Mars in Aries can bring impulsive decisions, sharp words, sudden confrontations, and actions taken without reflection. You may feel a surge of urgency, like everything must happen. Now, like every delay is unbearable. And in that urgency, you could either step into your power or burn something that was never meant to be destroyed. This is not energy to play with casually. This is energy to respect. Emotionally, you may start noticing a restlessness that doesn't let you sit still. Kind of inner agitation that keeps pulling you toward action, even when you don't know exactly what action to take. Your body may feel it first. Tightness in your chest. Sudden increase in your heart rate when you think about certain situations. A tension in your jaw, your shoulders, your throat, like something inside you is trying to speak, trying to move, trying to break free. Your dreams may become more vivid, more intense, more symbolic. You may wake up feeling like you've been processing something deep, something unresolved. There may be moments where you feel completely clear, almost fearless, followed by moments where doubt rushes in just as quickly. This is the push and pull of transformation. This is what it feels like to stand at a threshold where your old self no longer fits, but your new self is still forming, and this is where the symbolic motif becomes real. You are at a doorway, not a metaphorical one that you can ignore, but a real, energetic threshold that is asking you to choose. Behind you is the version of your life that has been defined by hesitation, by waiting, by trying to make sense of things that never fully made sense. In front of you is something unknown, something faster, something more demanding, but also something more aligned with your truth. The doorway does not stay open forever. That is what makes this moment so important. Mars in Aries does not linger. It does not gently hold space for you to decide. It opens the door and expects you to move. And if you don't, it will create situations that force movement anyway. This shift is also deeply tied to your identity. You may start questioning who you've been pretending to be, where you've been holding back, where you've been shrinking yourself to maintain peace or avoid conflict. Mars in Aries does not tolerate that. It brings a kind of clarity that cuts through illusions. Suddenly you may see things for what they really are, not what you hoped they would be. In your relationships, this can feel intense. You may notice that certain people start revealing their true intentions through their actions, not their words. Someone who has been inconsistent may become even more unpredictable. Someone who has been distant may either pull away completely or suddenly step forward with unexpected intensity. And you must pay attention, because this energy is not about guessing. It's about observing reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. Communication during this time can become sharp, direct, and sometimes confrontational. You may feel the urge to say things you've been holding back for a long time, and while honesty is necessary, the way you express it matters. This is not about releasing everything in one explosive moment. This is about choosing your words with intention. Even when the energy inside you feels urgent, financially, this transit can bring a push toward independence. You may feel a strong desire to take control of your income, to start something new, to invest in yourself, or to break away from situations where you feel undervalued. But again, the warning applies. Impulsive decisions around money can lead to unnecessary risks. This is a time to act with courage, not recklessness. There is a difference, and you must be aware of it. Your sense of self-worth may also come into focus. You may start asking yourself questions you've been avoiding. Why have you been settling for less? Why have you been waiting for external validation when you already know your value? Mars in Aries pushes you to reclaim that value not through words, but through actions. In your body, this energy can feel like a surge of adrenaline. You may feel more energized, more driven, but also more easily overstimulated. Sleep patterns may shift. You may find it harder to relax, harder to slow down. This is why grounding becomes essential. You need to find ways to release this energy in a healthy way, through movement, through physical activity, through anything that allows your body to process what your mind cannot fully understand yet. This is not a time to ignore your body's signals. If you feel overwhelmed, if your energy feels scattered, if your emotions feel heightened, that is not something to push through blindly. That is something to listen to, because your body is part of this transformation. It is not separate from it. And as you stand at this doorway, feeling the intensity of what is unfolding, there is something deeper you need to understand. This is not random. This is not just another phase that will pass without meaning. This is a turning point. A moment where your choices carry more weight, where your actions create more immediate consequences, where your alignment or lack of it becomes impossible to ignore. The universe is not asking you to be perfect. It is asking you to be honest. Honest about what you want. It's honest about what you're tolerating. It's honest about what needs to change. Because the door is open now, and what you do next will define the next chapter of your life as you stand in front of this doorway. There is a truth that begins to surface, one that cannot be ignored any longer. You are no longer the person who could stay comfortable in uncertainty. Something inside you has matured, even if it happened quietly, even if it happened through pain, silence, or confusion. And now Mars in Aries is activating that growth in a way that demands visible change. This is where inner evolution meets outer action. This is where your life stops being something you think about and becomes something you confront. You may begin to notice that your tolerance is shifting. Things that you once accepted without question now feel heavy, irritating, or completely misaligned. Situations that you once tried to fix or understand now feel like they are draining your energy. This is not you becoming impatient. This is you becoming aware. Mars in Aries sharpens your instincts. It removes the emotional fog that kept you second-guessing yourself. It brings you face to face with reality, and reality does not always feel comfortable. There may be moments where you feel like you want to walk away from everything at once. A job that no longer feels right. A connection that has lost its depth. A version of yourself that no longer feels true. And while that urge may feel extreme, it is rooted in something very real. You're being asked to realign your life with who you are becoming, not who you used to be. But this does not mean burning everything down impulsively. This is where discipline becomes power. Acting with clarity, not chaos, is what will define your transformation. The doorway you are standing in front of is not just about external change. It is also about internal ownership. You are being asked to take responsibility for your direction. No more waiting for perfect timing. No more hoping that things will fix themselves. This is where you step into authorship of your own life. That can feel overwhelming because it removes the comfort of blame, the comfort of delay, the comfort of uncertainty. Emotionally, this may feel like waves, moments of intense clarity followed by moments of doubt. You may have days where everything feels obvious, where your path feels clear, where your energy feels unstoppable, and then suddenly you may feel pulled back into old fears, old habits, old patterns of thinking. This does not mean you are going backwards. It means you are shedding layers. Transformation is not linear. It is a process of releasing what no longer fits, and that process can feel messy. There may also be a sense of urgency around your purpose. It's a feeling that time is moving faster, that you cannot afford to stay in the same place any longer. Is Mars in Aries accelerating your internal clock? It is reminding you that your life is not meant to be lived on pause. Your desires are not random. The things you feel called toward are not accidents. They are signals. But with this acceleration comes a deeper layer of truth. Not every desire needs to be acted on immediately. Not every impulse is aligned. Part of your growth during this time is learning to distinguish between what is a true call forward and what is simply a reaction to discomfort. Mars energy can make everything feel urgent, but not everything deserves your energy in your relationships. This distinction becomes even more important. You may feel a stronger need for honesty, for directness, for clarity. You may no longer have the patience for mixed signals, for emotional confusion, for connections that leave you questioning your place. And this is where the doorway becomes a choice. Do you continue engaging in dynamics that drain you, or do you step into a new standard of self-respect? Some relationships may intensify during this time. Conversations may become more real, more direct, more revealing. You may see sides of people that were previously hidden. And while this can feel confronting, it is also freeing, because clarity, even when it is uncomfortable, is always better than illusion. There may also be relationships that begin to fade, not through dramatic endings, but through a quiet realization that the connection no longer fits. And this can bring up emotions, grief, nostalgia, even guilt. But you must understand that growth often requires release. Not everything is meant to follow you through every doorway. Communication itself becomes sharper during this transit. Words carry more weight, reactions happen faster. And this is where awareness becomes essential. You're being given the opportunity to express yourself more honestly, but also the responsibility to do so with intention. Speaking your truth does not mean abandoning your awareness. It means aligning your expression with your values. Financially, this period can feel like a turning point. You may feel a strong push to take control of your resources, to make decisions that reflect your independence, to invest in your own growth. There may be opportunities that appear suddenly, requiring quick decisions. And while this can feel exciting, it also requires discernment. Mars in Aries supports bold moves, but not careless ones. You are being asked to step into financial responsibility in a new way, to trust your instincts, but also to ground them in reality. This is a time to build, not just to chase. To create stability, not just to react to opportunity. You may also become more aware of your relationship with money itself. Patterns of scarcity, patterns of overgiving, patterns of undervaluing yourself. These patterns may come to the surface not to overwhelm you, but to be changed. Because stepping through this doorway means stepping into a version of yourself that knows its worth in your body. The intensity of this energy continues to build. You may feel bursts of energy followed by moments of exhaustion. You may notice that your nervous system feels more sensitive, more reactive. This is why balance becomes essential. Movement can help release excess energy, but rest is equally important. Hydration, grounding, and awareness of your physical state are not small details during this time. They are part of your alignment. Your body is processing this shift just as much as your mind and your emotions. Ignoring it will only create more imbalance. There may also be physical signals that reflect your emotional state. Tension when you are resisting something. Fatigue when you are overwhelmed. Sudden clarity when you are aligned. Your body becomes a guide if you are willing to listen. And as all of this unfolds, the doorway remains open, waiting, not forcing, but not waiting forever either. This is where your actions begin to matter more than your thoughts, where your decisions begin to shape your reality in real time. So what should you actually do during this period? You need to slow down your reactions. Even as the energy speeds up, observe before you act. Notice patterns before you respond. If something triggers you, take a moment to understand why before you react. This is how you use Mars energy wisely. You need to have one honest conversation that you have been avoiding, not 10. Not everything at once, just one. Something real, something necessary. Because this energy supports truth, but it also respects focus. You need to stop chasing what is not choosing you. This is not the time to convince, to prove, to overextend yourself. This is the time to align. To move toward what is already moving toward you, you need to protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to you during this time. Not every situation deserves your attention. Being selective is not selfish. It is necessary. You need to take one bold step towards something that matters to you. Not everything at once, just one step, because movement creates clarity, and clarity creates momentum. And now, as this energy continues to intensify, there are 3 zodiac signs that will feel this shift more directly, more intensely, more personally than others. Aries, this is your ignition point. This is not just another transit for you. This is a rebirth of identity. You are being pushed to step into a version of yourself that is more direct, more confident, more unapologetic. But this also means facing parts of yourself that you may have avoided. Your impatience, your anger, your desire for control. This is your moment to refine your power, not just express it. The doorway in front of you is about self-leadership. How you walk through it will define your next chapter in a way that cannot be undone. Libra, you're standing on the opposite side of this energy, which means your relationships are under a magnifying glass. Everything that has been unbalanced, unclear, or unspoken is coming to the surface. You may feel pressure to make decisions, to define boundaries, to choose what you truly want. This is not comfortable for you, but it is necessary. The doorway in front of you is about truth and connection, and avoiding that truth will only make the pressure stronger. Capricorn, this energy is hitting your foundation, your home, your sense of security, your inner stability. You may feel a strong urge to restructure your life, to make changes that feel long overdue. But this is not just about external change. This is about emotional grounding, about creating a life that actually supports you, not just one that looks stable on the outside. The doorway in front of you is about alignment between your inner world and your external reality. And as all of this comes together, there is one final truth you need to hold on to. This is not a random moment. This is not just another phase. This is a threshold, a real one, and you are standing in it right now. The flame has already been lit. The energy has already begun to move. The doorway is already open. Only question that remains is whether you will step through it consciously, with awareness and intention, or whether you will be pushed through it by circumstances that leave you feeling unprepared. Because one way or another, movement is happening, and deep down, you already know that. You feel it in your chest, in your thoughts, in the quiet moments where everything suddenly becomes clear. This is where hesitation ends. This is where your life begins to move in a way that reflects who you truly are. Do not ignore this. Do not delay this. Do not pretend you don't feel it, because you do, and this time, you're meant to act. And now, as this chapter reaches its final breath, there is a silence that follows the fire moment where everything becomes still. Not because nothing is happening, but because something irreversible has already begun. And whether you moved immediately or hesitated at the edge, the energy has marked you. You cannot return to who you were before this doorway appeared. That version of you belonged to a different rhythm, a slower timeline, a life where waiting felt safe. But that life is no longer yours. This is your closing message, and you need to hear it clearly. You were not brought to this moment by accident. Every delay, every confusion, every emotional weight you carried was shaping you for this exact threshold. And now that you are here, the universe is no longer whispering. It is speaking directly to you through your instincts, your discomfort, your sudden clarity, and even your restlessness. All of it is guidance. All of it is direction. You may not have all the answers yet. You may not feel completely ready. Readiness was never the requirement. Alignment is. And alignment does not come from thinking more, it comes from choosing. Choosing what feels true, even when it feels unfamiliar. Choosing yourself, even when it disrupts everything around you. Choosing movement, even when your fear asks you to stay still. The doorway is still open, but not for long. And this is where you must understand something deeper. Walking through it does not mean everything becomes easy. It means everything becomes real. It means you stop living in potential and start living in consequence. It means your life begins to reflect your courage instead of your hesitation. Yes, that can feel intense, but it is also where your power lives. There will be moments in the coming weeks where you will be tested. Moments where it would be easier to fall back into old patterns, to stay silent, to avoid the truth, to delay the decision. But those moments are not there to stop you. They're there to reveal you, show you who you are choosing to become. And you must be honest in those moments, because the flame that has been lit within you is not temporary. It is not a passing emotion. It is a signal. a call, a force that is asking you to step into a life that matches your energy, your truth, your worth. You are not here to stay small anymore. You are not here to keep questioning your value. You are not here to wait for permission. You are here to move, to decide, to act, to become so as you leave this moment. As you step away from this message and back into your life, carry this awareness with you. Pay attention to what shifts. Pay attention to what feels different. Pay attention to what you can no longer ignore, because the universe has already opened the door, and whether you walk through it with intention or get pushed through it by force, this chapter has already begun. And this time, you are meant to rise.